Okay, what's up, guys? My name's Grog, and today I'm going to be talking about the skill changes about MapleCon. Now, I'm not going to be just talking about what we saw. A lot of people have already said that. Most of you have already seen the pictures or whatever, but we're going to be talking about not only, the old and new skills, sure, but also proposed changes that we can implement to really balance things out in a way that I think and my brother think that would make sense into the game. So yes, this is going to have my personal opinion on the current state of the changes and making sense of it all, including skill build predictions for some of the classes. And again, this is not just me repeating or reporting the information that we already know. This is us digesting, analyzing, and discussing this information with you guys. So things that apply to everyone that we've noticed is if you're wearing a shield, you're now getting a passive guard, which is basically just blocking the contact damage you take, and this applies to anyone that can wear a shield. So warriors, mages, and bandits. Of course, warriors not including spearmen. And we don't know the exact value. It could be a percentage. It could be, some people say it might be weapon defense based. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. I think it's just a flat percentage, like a 5% to block or 10% to block. We don't really know. Every class now has a 5% crit and 20% crit damage. There's a picture of a beginner with their stats. I also made a table that just tells everyone what the crit changes are now. So mages and beginners are at the bottom of the list. Warriors go up to 10% crit with precise strikes. Archers go up to 20% crit and 35% crit damage. Assassins are still the crit kings with 20% crit and 55% crit damage. And bandits, 25% crit. Now, they do have a little bit more crit rate, but I don't think that makes up for the crit damage that assassin gets, right? So assassin, crit king, archers I think are still better at critting than bandits, but bandits are up there. Now let's start with warriors. So warrior first job, improved HP recovery. We see that before you had to stand still to get the HP. It was a flat HP, like 50 HP, so it was really bad late game. Now it is a passive. HP regenerates every 10 seconds. It doesn't say the total, but I'm assuming it's just every single class has regen, by the way, and this is just the regen they get, but now they can use it while attacking, while moving, etc. And I think it scales with just total HP. So early in the game it might be bad, but this is a skill that if you respec in third or fourth job, pretty good. And that's not including the 20% extra heal you get, basically mimicking alchemy. If you know that, alchemy, what it does is it gives you extra HP, like MP, whatever, effectiveness in potions. That's a skill hermits had. So this is a trend now. We're gonna see the alchemist effect on a lot new skills, including this one. And the changes, I would say, this skill is great. Make it max level 10, like 15 points into this. We'll see later why I say this, but the SP investment in warrior first job is pretty atrocious, and for a lot of other jobs as well. Max HP increase, great change as well. Now you can take it at any level. Before, you wanted to take it as soon as possible because the max HP you got scaled with the earlier you got it. So a lot of people would forego attacks. I don't think that's a great way to balance the game. Great changes overall. 20 max HP, good. If anything, I said no changes here. If anything, I would remove the prerequisite of 3 points of HP recovery. And Endure was completely changed to precise strikes. Precise strikes now, 50 accuracy, great stat for a warrior, and 5% crit. Is that too much accuracy? Maybe, seeing now that some weapons and armors need dex as a warrior. So warriors will be getting dex no matter what if you want to wear high level equipment. That being said, I'm not going to argue about 50 accuracy. If I play a warrior, this is a very welcome change. And the crit as well, obviously. If I made any changes, I would make this max level 10. I would do one or the other, right? I would either reduce precise strikes to 10, or I would remove improved HP recovery to 10. One of the two. Iron Body, just making a 40 defense flat to 30% for 600 seconds. Great change. Not only less burden with the time, so it lasts 10 minutes, but also it scales great into the late game, and we're going to see why this is good with other skills. Power Strike and Slash Blast, straightforward changes, just a little bit more damage. Great. I don't think they need any changes. Now, skill build predictions. Skill priority, it doesn't really matter. I think some people rather take Slash Blast first, some people rather take Power Strike first. It's up to you. You could even go with a few points in Power Strike or Slash Blast, one or the other, maybe put one on each, and max out precise strikes just to get that early accuracy. And the crit doesn't do much very, very early in the game, but the accuracy might go a long way. And it's only a 15-point investment. From there, you would then max the 2 attacks. And what I don't like about this build, if you see, I think these 3 skills are a must for Warrior. You are most definitely maxing Power Strike. You're definitely maxing Slash Blast and Precision Strikes. That only leaves 3 points into improved max HP. Because remember, you also need 3 points into HP recovery, which is a prerequisite. I don't know. I don't love this change. That's why if you remove 5 points from Precision Strikes from the max needed, you could still max this, and at least you would have 8 points in max HP. Maybe you could remove the requirement and you could bump it up to 11. Still, Warrior's supposed to be the tanky class, right? That's their niche. They're losing a ton of their tankiness just because it's not a great skill compared to everything else in first job. Do you get it later? Sure. And I disclose here that, later on, when you respec, let's say, 3rd or 4th job, because remember, you're using Power Strike and Slash Blast all the way at least to level 70 or 80, minimum. So, and for some classes, that goes all the way up to 120. If you put nothing in Power Strike and Slash Blast, let's say you respec, then you can max everything else and maybe put 16 points into Iron Will. But, foregoing this tankiness until level 70 plus really feels bad, right? It basically, your class niche, which is your tankiness, you don't get your class niche until above level 70. Not a great change. I would reduce some points somewhere to put more points in max HP. Fighters, great changes here. I think this gives a little bit of build diversity. So the extra accuracy, I think, can make you attack higher level enemies, whereas Axe Mastery, it balances out the slash and stab. I don't think they normalize the damage. Some people were thinking that maybe they normalize the damage like some private servers have done, or some custom servers or world servers. I think they left the slash and stab, making axes, a little bit worse, but they make up for it with the new passive, the bleed, the 25% chance to inflict bleed. I'll go more into detail on how I think this bleed could work in a later slide, but bear with me, I think this is a great change. However, this will probably make you attack your level appropriate mobs, whereas sword allows you to attack a few levels above you. So if you're a really geared person, right, and you want to train at Fortress of Golem and you try to go at level 50, well, if an axe warrior goes at level 50, then that's fine. But a sword warrior can go from level 45, right, because they have the extra accuracy. I think that's the defining change here. Also, mobbing might just be better with sword mastery, while bossing might be better with axe mastery, because mobs die before the 3 seconds even tick, right? So you won't get the full bleed damage, making maybe for mobbing swords better, and maybe for bossing axe is better because, bosses have a lot of HP, you can get the full bleed duration. Final attack. Yikes, that's all I'm gonna say. I have a full slide which I don't know how long it's going to take me to cover that, but final attack is atrocious, and I'll explain why later. You can pause the video here and read this if you want. Okay, so sword booster and axe booster, no changes there. Great. Don't think they needed any change. Rage. So rage now gives 35 attack. Now, some people think, oh, you know, they're getting 2 extra 10 attack work gloves. This is insane. This is crazy. Not so fast. If you see footage, 12 attack, weapon attack, like on back in the day rage, was a good amount. Like, you could see the damage increase pretty significantly. You see the footage with people with rage and without rage. That's 35 attack. And I'm not saying you don't see the change, but there's barely any change, right? It feels like old rage, sorry. So, you know, did they change weapon attack formulas? Most likely. And I think this is the first indicator of that. Some people think this is going to be giga broken. I don't think so. It's just, you know, think of it as old rage. 12 weapon attack, maybe a little bit more, maybe 20 weapon attack, but definitely not 35. But changes I would add to this. I would give rage magic attack as well. Now, I'm going to leave Thieves and Magicians to a later video. I'll give you like a hint of what I want to do with Magicians. I think it's dumb that rage doesn't buff Magicians and that meditation doesn't buff every other class, right? Because when you think about it, the only class that uses magic attack is mages. And weapon attack, every other class it uses. So the party buff for rage not affecting mages, what if, you know, me and my brother decide to play together? We're a duo. I wanted to play fighter and he wants to play mage. And now I can't buff him and he can't buff me when I provide. That's like literally the only party buff I have, and that's the only party buff he has, and we can't even party buff each other. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. I understand that we don't want to change too much in Classic, but being able to party up with anyone we want and really bring the benefits of our, you know, of our class buff to our party is a great synergy to any class, really. And yeah, basically rage, give magic attack, and I already know what I want with meditation, which will also buff warriors, don't worry about it, and will buff every class. I'll discuss that in a further video. Power guard. I also have a different slide just for power guard, but basically I like the changes, you know. I like that now it lasts 180 seconds instead of 90. I like that if you have a shield and it procs guard, it has 100% return instead of 40. So it's good. You see some shield synergy here. I think the game is going in a direction where they want shields to be viable, and they are implementing a lot more support for shield gameplay. Okay, so the Axe Mastery time. Axe Math time. So Axe Mastery, you have a 1 in 4 chance or a 25% chance to inflict bleed. It says, so down here, let's look at the tooltip, 30% total damage over 3 seconds, which we can assume 10% each second. But how does that 30% work? So does that 30% work with our basic attack damage? Assuming basic attacks are 100%. Up here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, up here, if it scales out of our basic attack, it means that bleed adds a flat 30%. If Power Strike bleeds the enemy, it would deal the normal 300 plus a flat 30, meaning that that Power Strike would deal a total of 330% damage over the 3 seconds, right? If you let the bleed tick out. However, if the bleed does not scale on one's basic attack, and it scales off of the attack that procced the bleed, aka if it scaled off of Power Strike, then that would mean it's 30% of Power Strike's damage. Power Strike does 300 damage, or well, 300%. That would mean 1.3 of that is 90, so it's a total of 390. That's a sizable difference. We still don't know what the total damage means, because total damage, a lot of people could interpret as, well, the total damage of Power Strike. But you never know, right? Like, tooltips are written wrong or misinterpreted all the time. That could just be total damage of a basic attack, meaning flat 30. And yeah, if you want to pause the video here, I break down the power strike damage, break down the slash blast damage as well. And this, it's important to know, right? Because as we go into higher levels, assuming this also scales with brandish, it is a difference there, right? Like, brandish is a harder hitting ability, and if axe mastery scales with the ability we use, that is a lot better in the long run. Now the power guard rant. Oh my goodness, how did they mess up so much? Power guard becomes worse as your character gets better, meaning that, of course, as your character gets better, you get more defense on your equipment, more defense on your shield. And what that means is that you taking less damage means you reflect less damage back. That's a little bit counterintuitive, no? Like, your forward progression of your character has downward progression of this skill. It has really poor synergy with shield build, because the better and better shield you get, the more defense you're going to get, the less damage power guard does. This almost incentivizes you to keep a level 10 shield, because probably a level 10 shield will have the same amount of guard than a level 100 shield. However, the level 10 shield will have a lot less defense, meaning you take more damage, meaning you deal more damage. So I think this is really bad. It doesn't scale well. It'll probably be a useless skill once you hit 3rd and 4th job. How can you change this? Give it base damage. Give it base damage. It can be something like 10 or 20%. And that way it scales with your strength and your weapon attack. It also allows your skill to be useful in the endgame. So if you're attacking Zakum, you can stand on top of Zakum, and now you're dealing a little bit of damage back. It's not going to be a lot. It's not going to break the game. And no, it's not going to be overpowered. Some people, I can understand if they think, oh, well, if you make it deal too much damage, you can AFK in a map. You can press power guard with a macro or like a bot or whatever, and you can AFK farm. My understanding of that is, first of all, if you can AFK farm in the game, that shouldn't be a problem of the skill. That should be a problem that Nexon should address with like countermeasures of botting, anti-cheats, anti-macros, etc. Second, this is nothing compared to summons. Like, archers have summons, mages have summons with the dragon and the 2 elementals. And this is nothing. You know, you would have to hit something 10 times to kill it, because remember, this skill cannot deal more than 10% damage of the enemy's max HP ever. So, first of all, it doesn't aggro enemies. I don't think so. Second of all, it only deals 10%. It will take so much more time than a summon. And if they found a way to fix summon AFK farming, I'm sure they can find a way to fix power guard AFK farming. And it's not even close to OP as summons. And here's a demonstration of how bad power guard is right now. This is footage from Dino Fries, so thank you, Dino Fries, for your footage. He got hit for 56. Power guard dealt 23, which is about a 40% back. Remember that enemies also have a little bit of mitigation. He also guarded, and the guard meant he dealt 100% back. So here he deals 53 back. So you can see that the 40% and 100% work. Clerics now have an ability, well, they've always had Invincible, but now Invincible has a power guard effect where when they take contact damage as well, they deal damage back. But this damage back isn't a reflect damage, it is a base damage. How is Cleric reflect damage 247 and 307? By the way, Invincible can now crit. Power guard can't crit. It's never been able to crit. I don't know if it can crit now in the new Maple, like classic world, but it's never been able to crit. So you're telling me that Invincible now does insane amounts of damage and can crit, and Power Guard can't? And by the way, Power Guard gets worse and worse as you progress. Invincible just gets better and better because that scales with your magic. This needs to change. Alright, pages. Enough with the rant for a little bit until we get to final attack. Let's talk about pages. I think this is great. Great changes overall. Give some variety. The blunt weapon mastery. So here's a problem with the stun. Warriors have a tendency to, if they're grinding with higher level mobs, they will slash blast, walk, slash blast, walk, slash blast. And once they've aggroed all the enemies, they wait until the enemies reach them and then they mow them down. The problem is, let's say you're trying to aggro them. Half of your mobs are stunned and now you have to wait 3 seconds for them to walk up to you. It's annoying. It's not efficient. It can be a lot of times bad for your efficiency. So to make up for it, what we can do is maybe keep the stun, maybe even reduce it to 2 seconds. And another thing they can do is any stunned enemy that you hit with a blunt weapon, you deal 5% more damage or 10% more damage or whatever percent more damage. That is basically making up for the inefficiencies of stunning. Stunning isn't as good as people make it out to be. It's a good stat, don't get me wrong, but I think it needs some efficiency built into that. Final attack, we already talked about it. We'll get to that slide later. Alright, booster, no changes there. Great overall. I mean, yes, changes, they made it 300 seconds. Big whoop. Threaten, it feels okay. Now, I think it's a little bit more effective. It lasts for 30 seconds instead of 8 seconds. And yeah, I mean, now it slows. Again, I don't think the slow is going to be all that dramatic, but tiny buff is a tiny buff. I would say it's still good. I think this works now with bosses. Old Threaten didn't used to work with bosses. If it does, then that is a big buff. However, I don't think this works with Disorder from Thieves. So, you know, you could use one or the other. But it's always good, right? Because you don't always have a Thief in your party, or you don't always have a Paladin in your party. So, Power Guard, we just talked about it. Spearman. So, here's the controversial one, and here's how I took it. I think Spearman, class identity-wise, isn't changing a lot. But however, if anything, it's going more into the identity of... So you use Spears with Dragon Fury, that's like your bossing attack, and Polearm with Dragon Crusher. That's the wider range grinding attack. What goes good with grinding? More speed. So Polearm getting more speed is great, right? You can run around the map quicker, you can use Dragon Crusher, you can grind faster. Now people say, well, what does Avoid bring? Well, what do you really use for bossing? Well, more damage. Not only Dragon Fury, but bossing with Berserk is really important. And Berserk puts you in HP ranges that put you at risk. So they didn't want to give maybe the class too much HP in terms of like Hyper Body, because they nerfed Hyper Body. And my take is, how else can we increase their survivability without giving them a better Hyper Body? Avoid. I mean, they already can't wear a shield, so they can't use Guard. So what's similar to Guard, but isn't Guard? Avoid, so now you can miss. So I think Spear Mastery is more into the identity of Dragon Fury, of Berserk, and staying low HP, which is like high risk, high reward kind of gameplay, right? Like you stay low HP, you try to miss as much as you can, and you deal as much damage as you can. So that's my take on the Avoid change on Spear Mastery. A lot of people are like, why Avoid? Why are you giving Spears Avoid? This makes no sense. That's what makes sense to me. Final attack. We'll get to that. Boosters, again. Good changes. More duration. Iron Will. I love this change. Some people still think it's a party buff. I don't think it's a party buff, because it doesn't really say it in the tooltip, and before it did. Before it gave weapon defense to everyone, you really didn't use this ability for much, so, I mean, good that they buff it for individual use. and 50 extra weapon defense. A little bit more weapon defense, not a lot, but it's something. The big buff, 35% stance at second job. Huge. I don't know what they're going to do with maybe third and fourth job, introducing warriors normal stance. They might not even introduce stance, who knows. But just getting 35% stance now, it feels great. Hyper body nerf. I'll talk about it a little bit here. So I think that a lot of classes will see nerfs in their party buffs, and you will see more individual power given to every class. Why? Because before, the concept of giving a really strong party buff to a class meant they had to nerf everything else. Like, to balance the class, balance a Dark Knight that gives 60% HP and 60% MP, that's too powerful. We have to nerf everything else. And so the classes felt really bad individually and better, right, while you're party playing. I think the new philosophy for party buffs is make party buffs feel good to have, but not mandatory to have. And also give more individual power to the classes that give those party buffs. That's why in the future, I expect Holy Symbol nerfs. I expect Sharp Eye nerfs. I expect Haste nerfs. And Haste did get nerfed, but they gave more individual power to every class. So they gave more speed to every class, or at least that's what people assume, because, you know, people have been walking a little bit faster. So what people think is they gave individual speed to everyone, and then they just took a little bit of power off of Haste. That's my take on party buffs. Hyper Body now still feels good. I would give maybe a little bit more MP, because now it doesn't give any MP at all. I don't know if it was too broken, but this skills with max HP, mages don't have a lot of max HP, so it's not really good with mages. Mages' HP is technically their MP, like their MP pool is their HP. So I would still give a little bit of MP. If they need to reduce the value, maybe 15-20% to balance it, sure. I don't know what the perfect balance is, just give MP. Now, we got to the point, the real problem at hand for all warriors and archers. Final attack. This skill so as you can see, I'm pretty pissed with this skill. Wall of text, warning. Pause if you want, read it yourself, or listen to me rant for a few minutes. The problem with final attack, it is a 30 skill point investment. 30 points. Power Strike is 20, by the way. This is 30 points for it to be barely better than Power Strike. Power Strike is 300 damage. Final attack is 350. And only if you could use it all the time, it'd be better. Remember, this is a proc, so 1 in 4 chances you can maybe proc it, right? On top of it, it's not AoE, so in most cases, while you're leveling from 1 to 70, you're using Slash Blast anyways because you're trying to mob. That's the way warriors grind. You mob. You don't do a lot of bossing. This might be better for bossing, but again, you don't do a lot of bossing from 1 to 70, and when you do bossing, Power Strike will do just fine. You're barely getting any benefit from Final Attack because you can't use Final Attack all the time. It's, again, 1 in 4 chance. In other words, it's a 1 in 4 chance to hit, to do a slightly better Power Strike. Also, it's single target, so again, Slash Blast is just better every time. And the worst part is, once you get to the area of the game where you're bossing, basically around 3rd job to 4th job, you most likely just get a better skill then, right? If they rework Coma for fighters, or whatever the skill is called, if they rework the charge ability for paladins, if they just give Dragon Fury to Spearman, all of those abilities will be better than Final Attack. So why even ever put points in Final Attack to begin with? It's a useless skill. It used to be useless because it split your damage, and now it's useless because a 30% and 30 skill point investment on this ability is not worth it. Note, it goes without saying that this is equally as bad for archers as well. It's even worse for archers. because at least warriors get a 50 damage increase from power strike. Archers only get a 40% increase. Double shot does 310. I think their single target one is like power shot or something, which is also 310. Final attack is 350, so they only get a 40 increase. And the worst part, all that extra damage that overkills a target is wasted. At least double shot, if you overkill a target with your first arrow, it hits your second target. So double shot is better 99% of the time. So after all this rant, after explaining how terrible this ability is, it's not AoE, it's single target, it's barely usable, and it's a 30-point investment. What are the changes that I would make? First of all, just make it a passive again, but don't make it split the damage like it used to before. Make it the same success rate, so like 25%, that's fine. And when it procs, so you could see the glow in the corner, just like before. You know, you see it proc, whatever. What it does is, your next attack deals an additional 20% damage. So a power strike that deals 300 damage, an additional 20% would be 360. You know, speaking of 20 of the total. And then this could work with every ability you have in your kit. So not only is it a better power strike now, it's also a better slash blast. It's a better double shot. It's a better arrow bomb. It's a better iron arrow for the crossbowman. You know, it's just a better skill for everything in your kit. And it's just a little bit of damage boost. But at least it's a useful skill. Not only that, you can now use it for 3rd and 4th job skills. And if they have to preemptively nerf 3rd and 4th job skills to balance them out because now you have final attack, so be it. I understand that some people might say, oh, well, this is basically just crit, right? Like crit is just your next attack dealing a bit more damage. Final attack is just your next attack dealing a bit more damage. It's not. Why? Because crit scales not only with crit rate, but crit damage. Final attack would be a flat percentage. It does not scale with crit rate. It does not scale with crit damage. It does not scale with the new equipment, which gives crit rate or crit damage. It's just a flat 20 whenever it procs, and you can see it proc. So it's a quote-unquote like almost crit, but you can see it whenever it procs. So it's a predictable crit as well, right? It's more predictable, less scalable, but all around just makes your character better. Yeah, I think making it an active ability, also making another button to press, it's poop. For some people say, oh, but now I have one more ability, so it feels more engaging. Go play another class. Like, go play another class. This is terrible game design. By far. Archers. Critical shot. So, back with good energy. That I feel like final attack drained me. I'm sorry. Let's start with critical shot. They nerfed the critical rate. They nerfed the critical damage. I don't think this is terrible. And here's why. They buffed the damage of every other skill, right? To compensate for it. Also, it's not just 15 crit and 15 crit damage. Remember that you have a base crit of 5, so there's a total 20. And the base crit of 20 as well of the critical damage, making it 35. You can reference my critical table at the beginning of the video. So it seems fine. I have some speculation that they might add more crit later in the job, so maybe 3rd job or 4th job. We'll see how it goes. The balance team, I'm sure, are looking at the numbers behind the scenes. Amazon's Judgment. New ability. Blessing of the Amazon was kinda clunky, right? Like, archers already have giga accuracy because of Dex. Blessing of the Amazon gave them more accuracy for some reason, and then Focus gave them more accuracy for some reason. Why do they have so many accuracy skills when they're already the most accurate class? Didn't make sense to me. So this is a good change. making a skill that is useful. It brings more utility. Crits now slow, and there's an ability that always crits, power knockback. So great synergy there. Overall, it's alright. It's not gonna be like a super OP skill, but it's alright. I have the Amazon. They increase the range of attack. However, I don't know if the range actually went up or down because we don't know the base range. However, they could have increased the range, so if they did, that's cool, I guess. Archers are like, class fantasy is, you know, they can attack as far as like farther than any other class, I think. I don't like that they made the max level 15. I would decrease that to 10. Same thing that happened with warriors. I think the SP investment in first job is a little bit crazy. Focus, a little bit of buff, but again, you don't need accuracy. Maybe the avoid will be a good stat. I don't know. If avoid stacking is good, hunters get, I think, another 50 avoid in second job, so 25 here, 50 there, might be good. Arrow blow seems good, you know, good change, more damage. And double shot. Now this is the real deal right here. Again, more damage, same damage as arrow blow pretty much. However, if the first arrow kills, the second arrow now hits the second target. So overkill here, really good. You can kill 2 targets at once. If you're killing low mobs, you can kill 2 at a time. Even if you're killing higher mobs and the first drop hits, you can now do more damage to the second mob. Skill priority, 1 in arrow blow, max out your range. And after that, most people here would have gone with critical shot back in classic days. Instead of going critical shot, since critical shot got nerfed and double shot got a big increase, I would probably max double shot first, then go for the crit, and the rest of the points you could put in Amazon's Judgment. Third or fourth job, same as warriors. If you want to respec, you take the points out of your attacks, max everything else. The only thing I didn't max here is focus because, again, I don't think you need all the accuracy and avoidability. It is a cool thing if you want to max the focus for the avoidability. You can maybe take points out of Amazon's Judgment, but that's just up to you. Hunters. Here's the avoid. Great change here for bow mastery. The avoid confuses me a little bit, not gonna lie, you know, I admit it here that it confuses me at the moment, but if avoid stacking is a thing, might be good. And now they remove range attack whacking, so amazing. Bow whacking had to go. I'm sad the thieves are still thief punching, but we'll discuss that in the thief video. Bow booster, good. No changes, but they didn't really need to change. Final attack, I already ranted for a bit on the warrior section. Go back to it if you haven't seen that. Power knockback. So the good thing here is it always crits. So now it synergizes with Amazon's Judgment. I think that's great. Now it only hits 4 targets, same as Arrow Bomb. So I think that these ranged classes, they're trying to limit the how many targets they can hit just because they're ranged. I don't really know. Basically, both Arrow Bomb and Power Knockback now hit 4 targets instead of 6. Soul Arrow, I also don't understand why they nerfed the time. I don't know if I missed something in any of the tooltips. All they did here was literally nerf Soul Arrow to half the time. I don't know. Yeah, I understand that most buffs are 300 seconds now, but Warrior has a buff that's 600 seconds. I can't remember now. Let me see if I can go. Okay, so I paused the video to check. Iron Body is 600 seconds from first job Warrior. So there are other abilities that are 600 seconds. Like, it's not that they don't exist. Not sure why the nerf. Crossbow mastery. Big. That's all I gotta say. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I think the 20% chance to ignore enemy weapon defense, pretty good. I think their class fantasy is more of the, you know, the tank buster, tank piercer. So really good there, right? And it I think it really fits their class fantasy. Same with Iron Arrow. So all of these, no changes. I don't have to talk about them. Iron Arrow, again, it just feels like you're piercing through your enemies. I really like the class fantasy crossbowmen are getting. Hunters seem to be getting more of the class fantasy of like heavy CC, right? With the stuns, with the extra slows. And yeah, I don't think I need to talk about the other abilities here. Same thing as Hunters. And Iron Arrow, again, they reduced it to 4, and I'm not sure why there. I don't like that the damage decrease while it flies through the enemies is so much. I would much rather they reduce the damage maybe to 170 or something and not have the damage drop off, or make the damage drop off a lot less. And for my archer friends, if you didn't see the final attack portion of the video, go back and watch it in the warrior section. It is buns. Final attack is so bad. And last but not least, if they do decide to make final attack good and viable, it seems like second job archers will have to decide between power knockback and soul arrow, putting all your points in every other skill. My prediction is that most people will probably go for soul arrow if the game state stays as it is. However, to make the build more diverse, I would add some changes. These changes are to make arrows rechargeable, just like throwing stars and bullets, and make them, rare drop, just like throwing stars and bullets. Why would I add this? And here is the quality of life I would add. First of all, add more arrow variety. So maybe like bullets, have one at level 10, 30, 50, 70, and so on, every 20 levels. Another thing is it would add better economy to the game. People will actively hunt for them. People will want to trade them. It's basically now categorized as gear, not just random a quiver that fell and has 1 or 2 or 3 arrows or something. Now it's actual gear, right? So it promotes more economy and trading in the game, which is always good. It's more convenient for archers in the long run, that you don't have to all the time be getting more arrows. You can recharge them, especially the higher level arrows. The problem with higher level arrows back in the day was those usually you could only find in certain places. The red arrows you could only find, and the blue arrows for crossbowmen, you could only find in like Showa Town or something, right? So you would have to walk all the way to Showa Town to refill your arrows to come back. Really annoying. So once you have the higher level arrows, you can go to any merchant and recharge them. So I don't see how that's negative for archers. It's less annoying as well for every other class, because how many times any other class, like a mage, a warrior, any other class, you would see a quiver fall with arrows, and they would constantly be filling your bags. Like your bags would always be full with dumbass arrows. You would drop them, and 5 minutes later, you'd fill up your bags again with arrows. It was annoying as heck. Big reason why they removed it in Big Bang and other versions of the game is it was a huge nerf to like quality of life. Why is everybody picking up arrows all the time? So just make it an equip, or like make it not an equip, but make it a rechargeable, like throwing stars or bullets. And all of this, by the way, stemmed from the idea of power knockback and soul arrow. Making arrows rechargeable takes a load off of soul arrow and now puts more usefulness to power knockback. Both of them are convenience skills. They're both for conveniency. Soul arrow you can use if your conveniency comes in time management. So if you want better time management, you can get your convenience there. While power knockback has more utility. You don't need power knockback because now archers don't need to knock back enemies, right? You can attack even from melee. However, if you want that extra utility convenience, you can get power knockback. So it just depends what convenience you want. If you want either the utility from power knockback or the time management from soul arrow, it just depends what you prefer, and it gives the build diversity. However, if final attack isn't fixed, you can just get these two and just put the rest of the points in first job. Final attack is ass. That is it for me today. Thank you for sticking around for the long video. Again, this is a deeper dive style video, and I will be doing this for the next classes, being Thief and Magician. I just wanted to post this one out. I knew this was going to be a long discussion, and eventually I'll come up with those two, maybe in a week, hopefully. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Grog out.